Okay, good evening, everyone. Welcome to our Zoom webinar tonight, Writing an Effective Resume. My name is Tim. I'm the host here with Regina Public Library. I hope everyone is safe and doing well. And thank you very much for attending the session tonight. We're pleased to have our guest speaker, Asif, joining us to facilitate the webinar. Asif is a chartered human resources professional. Today, he is volunteering through CPHR Saskatchewan to speak at our session. Asif has an MBA degree and a master's degree in human resources as well. He has over 15 years of experience in human resources management, primarily in learning and people development areas. He has worked for many multinational companies around the world, including Nokia in Helsinki, Finland, Verizon in the US, and Co-op in Calgary and Saskatoon. Asif also has his own consulting company, Zarkaft Consulting, providing human resources consulting services to clients from Canada, US, and internationally. Okay, so without further ado, I would hand it over to Asif. And if anyone has any questions during the presentation, please feel free to type it in the chat box. I'll keep an eye on the chat box, and Asif will be stopping from time to time to address those questions. Okay, Asif, I'll hand it over to you.
Okay, thanks, Tim. And welcome, everybody. And thanks for having me. So just to reiterate that this session is being recorded and we'll post it online for others who can take advantage of it. Today's session, I would like to keep it more interactive if we can. So I'll ask you questions and you can respond to them, and you can ask me a question anytime you like as well. If I'm not able to stop right away to answer your question, we will do that towards the end. The way to be interactive is chat box. We keep saying chat box, Tim and I, so that is actually a way to communicate. That's the best way to do that. Similarly, all your comments, I encourage you to make a comment on things. Any new thought that comes in that's different than what's been discussed, or anything addition that you want to add on to that's being talked about, feel free to say it. Feel free to type it in the chat box. I don't want it to be just one-way communication. I don't want it to be a monologue. Ideally, we want it to be a dialogue. When you are participating as a knowledge creator, not just a knowledge consumer. Okay, makes sense. So let's get started. Effective resume. So my name is Asif Zulfikar. I go by AZ. I've seen my name butchered so many times that I decided to just shorten it to AZ. It's easier to pronounce. I'm an HR professional, and Tim has talked about me enough that I don't need to go over it one more time. So before we get started, who's excited about job hunting and applications and writing resumes? Is this exciting stuff? It's not. I feel you. I'm with you. For someone who has been in your shoes many times, I can relate to that it's not a fun thing to do. No one has ever said that I enjoy writing resumes, I enjoy job hunting or filling out application or paying for interviews. So I cannot promise that after today's session that it will become fun all of a sudden. But my objective today is to make it as painless as possible, to take as much pain out of this process as possible, to make things easier for you, share my experiences and my observations on resume writing, and then get your observations as well. So the first question I have for you is purpose of resume. What do you think is the purpose of resume? It's awful. No, exactly. I agree with you guys. So what do you think is the purpose of resume? Any ideas is a good idea. I think subconsciously we all know what resume does, but I just want to get your opinion on how you feel about it. To market yourself to the employers, very good.
I think the resume is the orientation of yourself, about your background, your working experiences, about your abilities. Yeah.
Absolutely. Your introduction, right? Yeah. And say you don't have to speak up. You can just type it in. That's sufficient. And someone else typed it here, to tell about your skills in education. Absolutely right. Everybody is correct here. Philosophically speaking, the way I think about it is that the employer has a problem, and now they're looking to hire someone who can come in and solve that problem. Before they hire someone, they want to look at that individual to see if they have the relevant capabilities, skills, experiences, and personality to be in a position to solve that problem. What resume does is everything you guys just mentioned. Resume makes that introduction enough for the to the employer that they want to hire you, to make that decision, hire you or not. So there are several things that can be said about resume, purpose of resume. But at the end of the day, there's only one purpose that resume serves: to get an interview. No one has ever received a job offer just because they submitted a resume. No company has ever hired anyone solely after looking at the resume. All resume does is just get you to next step, which is to get an interview. That's it. So you want to write your resume in a way where it's appealing enough to the reader that they want to pick up a phone and call you. So how we do that? The way to do that is, the way to meet that purpose is, there are several things we can do to make it appealing enough. We want to make it easy to read. This is no-brainer. The way we form it is, the kind of information we put it, it's easier on the eyes. It's easy to understand. It's concise. We don't want to write entire life story there. We want to make it concise enough that it shows how my profile how I can solve the problem the employer has. It needs to tell a story. It needs to have some sort of, it cannot be disjointed. It cannot have all the experiences, everything you have done in your life. That's not the purpose of resume. Things need to be jointed enough that it tells a story that where have you been and where you're going, and how all the previous experiences are going to help you do the job well. Then it needs to focus on achievement. And we'll talk a little bit more about that, what that means. And it needs to be accurate. I encourage you to not make overarching claims about best in the world, or some of the greatest thing you've done. I do encourage individuals to write your resume, put your best foot forward, to highlight your accomplishments. But at the same time, it does not need to be overblown. And finally, you want to stay out of cliches. You want to stay away from cliches. You want to keep it original. Things such as excellent teamwork skills, or hardworking professional. These things anyone can write. That may be the case. You may be hardworking individuals, but it's very difficult to objectify it. It's very difficult to put hardworking means something different to you than it does to me and to a next person. So you want to keep it original. You want to keep it to yourself. 9, if you have 10 years of experience, that's very specific to you. 10 years of experience working in 4 countries and in building an IT system, that's a very specific experience that's relevant to you. But hardworking can be relevant to anyone. So you're gonna make it original and specific to you. 6 seconds. Do you know what that means? Any ideas? Why 6 second rule is important? So research says recruiters take an average of 6 seconds to scan your resume. Now, don't quote me on this. I only read it. I have not actually seen the research, how research was conducted, but it makes sense. Even if it's not 6 seconds, time is not, it's very limited. Recruiters simply do not have unlimited time to go over hundreds of resumes that have been sent their way. So they have very limited amount of time when you want to make your case, when they want to make that decision that is this person, is this resume worth my time to go in much more detail. Okay, so everything I'll talk about in next 30 minutes would be revolved around these 6 seconds and all the 6 elements I just mentioned previous on this slide. Any questions so far? Do you see any questions, Tim?
It looks like we don't have any questions so far.
Okay.
Anyone has any
So,
questions, please feel free to type in the chat box here.
so one thing you want to do when you write your resume, you do not want to lie. Because if you lie, this is what happens. You're not only going to be out of place, but you're going to stick out. When you lie, you better hope, when you lie on your resume, you better hope you don't get the job. If you lie, because if you lie and you get the job, but this is what's going to happen. You're going to look ridiculous. You're going to make yourself look ridiculous. So lying is out of the way. There's a distinct, I do encourage individuals who come to me for advice. I do advise individuals to make the best, put the best foot forward. Use the best words out there. Find words that tells a better story, better version of yourself. But that does not mean crossing the line when it becomes bad. All right, so let's break it down. There are several sections of a resume. So first section, this is something everybody's favorite, your name, your address and everything, your primary, what to call you and how to get hold of you. Second is more of an intro that will go in a little bit more detail, more of a summary of who you are. This is where the 6-second rule applies the most. Then skills and experience section. This is where most of your time, most of your real estate on your resume must be allocated to. And we'll go in much detail there. You want to write this in a way that after your introduction has enticed the individual enough that they want to read your skills and experiences in more detail. I saw someone taking a picture. You will have these slides available to you. So don't worry, you don't have to take pictures. And then final section is education. A resume can have multiple sections. It can be anything more or less than that. Every resume is different. The location of these sections can be different as well. There's no hard and fast rule. It's not linear. But these are generally the key sections that you want to look for. Towards the end of the session, I'll walk you through some of the resumes that I've downloaded from online, from the web. And I'll walk you through. You're going to see sections may be labeled differently. Their locations may be different. But more or less, they have the same content in the resume. So in general, this should be the ideal structure of your resume. So let's take a look at, oh, by the way, whatever you do, it has to be, your resume has to be short enough. Remember 6-second rule. 3 pages resume, ain't got no bad time for that. So if you do have 3-page resume, there's nothing wrong with it as long as you have it's properly justified. We'll get into a little bit more on that. But the ideal point of this is not to make fun of you if you have 3-page resume. Part of this is that if there's something unnecessary, there's something that does not serve a purpose that you're trying to serve here, it's probably better to take it out, okay, and reduce it to what's appropriate time, what's appropriate length of the resume needs to be given your profile. So let's take a look at each section here. So on introductory section, this is where you want your name, your phone, and email. I do highly encourage you to have a LinkedIn profile, have all the details of your work samples on LinkedIn, and have a LinkedIn link on your resume. Your personal website or anything else, some people like to have their Twitter or social media links there as well. There's nothing right or wrong about it. It's up to you. The general rule of thumb is you want to put anything out there if it serves the purpose. If your YouTube has just a cat videos, it doesn't serve that purpose. But if YouTube is designed to showcase your skills, then I encourage you to have YouTube skills in there. If you're a graphic designer, for example, and your videos depict your line of work in more detail, that's absolutely fantastic thing to share with you, to share on the resume. Things that you don't want to do is, generally, you don't want to share address. I mean, these days, I'm not against it. It's up to you. Some people do like their complete address. Some like just their location in a broad sense, the city they're located in, or the general area they're looking for a job. But it's simply not required. And these days, most of the jobs are remote anyway, so it doesn't matter where you are located. This will save you some space on your resume. But if you choose to have the address, it's up to you. Please do that. Another aspect of having your address is if you're looking to relocate, or if you're open to accepting a position beyond your immediate area, then address could be a limiting factor. When the recruiter looks at your address, first thing may come to mind, oh, this person is located in X, Y, and Z city. You know, they may not be, and this job is located in all the way other side of the country. So you don't even get a shot. Right? Your resume may just get rejected purely because of your location. Although likelihood of that is happening quite low, but still you don't want to leave it to chance. You know, you would want a recruiter to pick up the phone, give you a call, and ask you this question. That's where you have given yourself a chance to have a broader conversation, including which location you want to work at. So it's up to you if you want to put that out there. Your picture, age, date of birth, marital status. This is not only not required, but it's also illegal. If any employer requires you to have this posted on your resume, you need to report that. So this is a sample, just your name on top. Then you have a LinkedIn link, then you have email, then you have phone number. It doesn't have to be in exact same format. It could vary, but it's up to you how you make it your own. But this is just a sample. Second part is writing a summary. Things that you don't want to do in writing a summary is objective. Objective is a big no-no. Objective is, the reason for that is you want to write a resume from the perspective of employer you're trying to reach. Objective is from your perspective. Looking for challenging engineer, looking for challenging position, entry-level position in mechanical engineering firm, that may be true, but it does not tell the employer how you are qualified to do the job. So it needs to be, so objective is old school, and some of the employers actually may look at it negatively. Other things you don't want to do is you don't want it to be long summary, long sentences, repetitive stuff that you want to keep writing over and over. You don't want to have anything vague stuff in there, and you definitely don't want to have cliches. Few of them I mentioned earlier: hardworking, responsible, team player. You know, things of that sort. These may definitely be true about yourself, but these are not objective enough for employer to put a value around them. Secondly, they do not tell a story how you are able to perform a function that employer is looking to be performed. And finally, I already mentioned that subjective statements and the cliches, they pretty much go hand in hand. What you do want to do is you want to label it as, rather than objective, you want to label it as summary, profile, introduction. Mine says expertise, anything you can think of. But essentially what it needs to be 2 to 3 sentence summary of your profile. And what it needs to include is your experiences or education, the industries that you acquired those education or experiences from, and the skills that you have. Your summary should demonstrate these key 3 areas. And the best way to do it is write the rest of your resume and then write your summary on top later. That'll help you come up with a better version of a summary. Essentially, your summary should be, the rest of your resume should be unpacking what's in that summary. And I'll show you, actually, let me just show you example here first. So this is a person who's looking for a digital marketing manager. So they have made their summary. Let me draw it over here. They have labeled their summary very specifically. There's nothing wrong with that. But if you write it that way, if you're looking for digital marketing manager position, if you're looking for specifically IT position, you're only going to be targeting in that line of work. If you're looking for broader position, then I would recommend writing your summary, profile, or any other adjectives. So the way it's written here, FireSea competitor, I'm not so much of a fan of word FireSea, but all the other contents of the summary is very good. 9 years of experience. That tells you that's an objective measure. You have these systems, experiences in the systems. You have a number in sales they have achieved. So there's a lot of stuff in here that tells a very good story about who you are, and that introduces you as a professional. The rest of your resume needs to be expanded version of this summary. So next section is skills. When I keep saying next section, it doesn't have to be next. Location of that section could be anywhere depending on where you are, and I'll show you the examples a little later. But this is a list of skills, competencies, expertise, list of everything that you have acquired throughout your career. So reason for this section is very important. It's critical because in your summary, there's so much you can add in your summary. So you want to highlight your key skills, your overall profile in the summary. And your resume, when you write your experiences, those are statements, and your expertise may not be as evident unless you read the resume in more detail. So what this list of skills allows you to do, this section allows you to do, is to have an inventory of all the competencies you have. All the expertise you have acquired, they can go into the skills section. It could be one section. So this is where your keywords come in. Include all the keywords that are relevant to your profile that's going to get you a job. It can be one section, or it could be subcategorized, and I'll show you the example in a little bit. It could be at the beginning or end of the resume. It is. I've made that point earlier already. The location of this section is not as important, but what's important is what goes in there. Once again, it needs to be a list. It's not the details. Details belong in your experience section. This is simply a list, no more than 1 or 2 words against each competency. Education and certification does not belong here either. There's several sections of that for that, and we'll talk about it in a minute. And then here's the example of that. So everything you see here is, it actually came from the same survey I mentioned earlier, same resume I gave you example of earlier. So they call it skills section. That's the name of the section. You can have all your skills listed in one section. That's what I did on my resume. Or you can have it subcategorized. I actually like this very much. This gives you further visibility that what sort of, yes, this person speaks 3 languages and has experience in working with 5 web analytical tools, right? So it's very easy to read. So I do encourage you, if there's a way to do this, do it. So I saw some comments pop up. Any questions?
Chief, we have a question here. Uma is asking, are we supposed to write the same intro in the cover letter?
This is a very good point. Yeah, so cover letter is a little bit more detailed than intro. So the first version of your, so cover letter, I break it down into three pieces. The first of all, first section is introducing yourself. And that's where this section can go into, your summary can go into, not exactly same words, but maybe words could be, you have a little bit more real estate to play with there. So maybe expanded version of that summary. Second is where you want to talk about specific skills and specific experiences that relate to that job. Second part of cover letter. And the third part is how you can be reached, your email address, your phone number, your, any other profile, or share your YouTube, your LinkedIn, everything where they can find you and where they can find more information about you. Very good question. Thank you for that.
Another question is,
yes.
Oh, sorry, yeah. Another question is, Muhammad is asking if the job requires certain certifications like PMP, should they write it in the skills section?
Absolutely, I would say so. Yeah, absolutely. Product management professional with 15 years of global experiences, working with this, and this industry. This is a great summary for you to write. Or certified product management professional. Right? So that's how you can start your resume. So if there's a certification that's very strong enough a match that actually truly defines your career, truly defines you as a professional, I encourage you to put it on there. All right, so your experience section needs to be perhaps the largest one. This is where you expand on your experiences, as the name suggests. This is where you expand on all the summary that you've written. So the way to write that is, so largest section I already mentioned, I would say about 75–80% of your resume space should be spent on that. Depending on your experiences, you may want to go over. Your employer name, when you write a section, I'll show you that example in a little bit. Your employer name, location, and duration needs to be there. It's a good idea to have an introductory statement about your experiences. That's a summary of another summary, subsection of a summary. Reason to do that is, if you work for a Google or Apples of the world, everybody in the world knows those companies. But if an employer is lesser known, it helps if you write a statement about what company did, the size of the organization, and what your role was. It helps the reader understand the scope of your work and scope of the broader organization that you are part of. So introductory statement should not be, again, more than one or maybe two sentences, and I'll show you the example in a minute. Then this is a very critical thing. This is something that we see most frequently, that first of all, your experiences need to be written in bullet points, and it needs to be written as accomplishment, not activity. You were filing, you filed all the documents throughout the day. That was your job. Yes, that's a statement. That's an activity you performed. But you supported by making sure you have you supported 3 organizational functions in doing that. That tells a better story. Objective, it needs to be objective statement. I cannot stress that enough. Something that's quantifiable, something that can be verified, something that can be compared with some sort of yardstick. So I encourage you to use numbers, percentages, any kind of figures that you can think about in writing your statements that would be helpful, that will help your cause. So the way to write that statement is, there are 3 parts to it. First, what you did. Second, who you did it for. I know it's for organization, but for which part of the organization. And third, which impact did it have? That's where your accomplishment comes in. So the ideal, not every statement probably is going to have all 3 sections, 3 components in it, but I encourage you to look for a way to write your statements with all 3 sections in it. Try to keep your writing, again, in bullets and as a one-liner. It's very powerful. It enhances your readability, and also it just avoids. It actually sends a message out to the reader. Your ability to write things concisely, to sum things up. In your experience, if you have 5-year experience, that you're writing about, there are many things you did. It's actually a skill to be able to write it in a way, in a powerful way, in 1 or 2 sentences. So that ability is also on display here. Another technique you can use is, while writing your statements, begin with action words: developed, created, revamped, strategized. So this will help you create a better story, and also it'll help you come up with the line where it explains what you did, who you did it for, and impact you had. Title here, name of the company, location, and you have the time frame. Okay, and so this is the summary that I was talking about. Led the marketing operation for this company, so it's a 45 employees, a relatively smaller company, right? In this summary, he talks about is a relatively bigger company where you have larger organization. It's a video production company. So this gives you a legitimacy. It gives the employer, gives the reader an idea of how big of a, what the scope of your work was. Then the way he has written, this resume is written, you have a lot of numbers in here. You got percentages here, you got dollar values here. Spearheaded, performed, raised, managed, oversaw. So you see all the action items in there. So this is a great example of how you can write your experiences in short, concise, 1 or maximum 2 lines.
Oh, Asif, we have a question here from Uma. So Uma is asking if someone has a career path change, like changing from supply chain to customer service. How do you relate the experience to one another? And is it okay to include irrelevant experience on the resume?
It's generally, I encourage you to put only relevant experience on your resume. But at the same time, no experience is irrelevant, completely irrelevant anyway. Whoever you are, whoever we all are, it's every experience, it's because of every experience we have. We are aggregate of all the knowledge, experiences, all the people that we have met. So nothing is irrelevant enough. So consider writing it in a way that it projects those skills that can be useful in your next career. Communication is always the key. If you made a significant improvement in improving a process, that's relevant in any environment. Your ability to handle multiple projects, deal with multiple personalities, that's relevant in any environment. So without eliminating that experience completely, you can still find a way to rewrite in a way which is a lot more relevant, projecting your skills, aligning your skills with the job that you're looking for and industry you're trying to go into.
Another question here. Someone is asking if the PMP certification is already overdue, probably expire. I don't know what that means, overdue. But can he or she still say that they have the PMP on the resume?
Yeah, absolutely. If you have received certification once, you still have that knowledge. You still have that skill. You can still perform it. You have not renewed it. So one strategy you can use is you can put it in the brackets that to be renewed next year or whenever. So you don't want to lie about it that you're still certified, but you still have that skill. You can put it on there that I'm a project management professional. So with these certifications, you have to continue earning few hours every year or every few number of years. Otherwise, your certification expires and you have to renew it. And different certifications have different things to consider. So if you think it has fallen off the grades, it's okay to write it as long as you're honest about it. Just in a parentheses, you can write either expired or probably renewed, to be renewed in 2 years or whatever the case may be. Anything else before we move forward?
One other question. Biren has 9 years of experience in human resources back in his home country. And his question is, how should he put together all this experience on the resume? Like, should he include everything, or just cut it short? And because the labor standards are different. Yeah, he's just wondering how to mention that.
Yeah, so this is a question, so there are two parts to it. First of all, it's a very good question. So first of all, your experience is experience. It doesn't matter where you had it. Yes, your environment is different. The people that you interacted with, that's different. So I would not just take that experience out because it was in a different environment, because it was a different industry, or it was in a different country, or you conducted your business in a different language. Your experience is your experience, and it's going to stay with you. Second part of it is, since standards are different, as long as you demonstrate that you have upskilled yourself to bring yourself to the standards of this country, you should be good to go. So either you can write a certification that you took to make sure you have this solid understanding of the lay of the land, of the lay of the new land, or you can say it's in the progress and you'll be certified pretty soon. I even look at, I don't want to make it myself, but I can use my example. I have been to many countries, worked in different countries. I never had to question myself, is it relevant or not? Partly because my work does not require certification. It does not require for me to upskill to bring my skill level to that country's level. But if that's the case with you, somehow if you can demonstrate that your skill is that level through a certification, through additional education, you should be good to go. But I would not shy away from putting your experiences in any part of this world on your resume. Thumbs up here. How would you write a change? I changed the light bulb on your resume. The successful upgrade and deployment of a new environmental illumination system with zero cost overruns and zero safety incidents. This is a joke, by the way. So this meme is, yes, it's over exaggeration, but the reality, unfortunately, is not very far from it. In my opinion, human potential is unlimited. Anyone on this planet, anyone on this call, and anyone on this planet can do any job as long as they have desire to do so. They can be trained to do any job. But the system that we live in, unfortunately, it requires us to demonstrate how we are able to do the job using prior experiences as an example. So that's why wordsmithing comes into play. Although I don't encourage you to write such a long answer to change the light bulb, but I do want you to put your best foot forward. I do encourage you to use the words that resonate with the employer enough that they want to give you a call for an interview. So the fifth section is about education. So any degree or certification you earn can go in here. The way you want to write it is you want to have a name and location and of the education. You want to, of course, mention the dates attended. And it should not be more than a line or two, maybe 3 lines. This is not the place where you want to list all the details about your education. I've seen some resumes where there's a long list of all the courses you have attended. I don't think it's relevant. No one has ever asked me about my education. It's on a resume, and that's good enough. Early in your career, when you do not have a whole lot of education, a whole lot of experience, your education probably is one of the only qualifications. Then you may want to write few experiences that you've had during your school time, during your education. You still, in that case, you want to list your courses that are relevant to that job. it still should not be exhaustive list of everything you have taken during that education. Education only, I've mentioned that. Your GPA, your minor, list of courses are already mentioned that. So all those things, they're really optional. They do not add a whole lot of value to it. No one has ever asked me what my GPA was. But if your field requires you to have a GPA on it, have more details about your education, please do that. But general rule of thumb is that you don't want to do it. So this is an example of writing your education section. So you have a label of education, then you have one master's degree, second master's degree, the location, the university location, and the time you took, and then the one certification there. Okay. I don't think you need to spend more of your space on your resume dedicated to education. And I encourage you to use that space to explain your experience, to expand on experiences than on education. Any questions, by the way? Any comments so far, Tim? Anything you want to share?
Yeah, we have a question from Semantini about career gap. How do we explain a career gap, especially women who have taken a career break for childcare and now want to get back to the workforce? For example, the recent career break.
Yeah, this is where I take my glasses off and say, I'm ashamed of us as human resource professionals, that we see human beings, applicants, as objects rather than as productive resources. There's such a negative connotation attached to gaps. Gaps could be for any number of reasons. So as long as they can be explained, you should be good to go. Some individuals do mention it on their resume. If there's a huge gap, they just say that my family member was sick and I had to take care of them, or I was on a mat leave. Or you can just say, I've seen that in parentheses where you have your job, and when it ended, they just say, left because of mat leave. So there's several ways to do that. But honestly, it's not you, the applicant, it's us. There's something seriously wrong with the system that we have created, that we look down at applicants because of having a job. This is so unfair. And this is so unfair to especially mothers. This is such an important role they play in the society by bringing another human being to this world and raising them. And we treat them in the way that we do. If it was my power, I would redesign the system where considering gap in the employment would be illegal. You won't even be asked why you have a gap, because that's so personal to many, many of us. So I admire those who have taken that gap to take care of their personal life. Lives are important, but there are multiple ways to express that. Or you can even make a point of that in your cover letter as well. Anything else?
Another question from Uma. So when you create your job profile online on the employer's website, when you apply for the job, where you attach the resume and also filling other information as well, are we supposed to attach other documents like the experience letters and educational degrees, something like that?
Educational degrees are not required. Educational documents, all the other documents are not required. Generally, they're not needed until offer is made. Even your references are not required until the offer is made. So some employers do require you to send the references with the application. So that's fine, you can share that, but the rule of thumb is that they're not supposed to call your references until the offer is made and your job offer is pending your references. And once offer is accepted, then they'll ask you for your degrees, copy of your degrees, diplomas, or any other documents, your personal ID and work permit and everything. Anything else?
From Mohammed, speaking on skills, how to avoid being seen as overqualified? For example, if I'm an engineer and need to apply as a technician.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so this is a tough question to answer. You know, you don't want to take yourself. I mean, the question you need to ask, the first question is, if your skill level is up here, why are you even looking for a job right here? You know, you don't want to undervalue yourself. The way to do that is probably perhaps a cover letter. In cover letter, you can explain, and whatever the reason is, yes, I do have experience in this and this and this, and because of this reason, I need to take this a job of low responsibility. Previously, I have so much experience and I used to manage a team, but since it has affected my personal life, the requirement of that job was, was something, beyond that I desired. So this is why I need to take this individual contributor role where I'm not managing a team, or I'm looking for part-time work because full-time, I'm not available for full-time work because I have a child to take care of. So there could be several reasons for it. I do not recommend, I don't know if it's the right answer or not. Perhaps you can get anyone else to chime in here as well. But I don't think you should undermine your own abilities on your resume. You can explain the reason for taking a lesser paying or lesser responsibility job, but that does not mean that you reduce the impact of your work. Okay, what if I told you poorly formatted job posting? Have you ever seen a job posting which was just one paragraph with no bullets, no spaces in between, no paragraphs? How did it make you feel? Did you actually made you apply that? Even if you apply that, did you actually go and look if this was a legitimate company that you're applying for, or this is not some shady employer trying to get you to sign on to the email list? Same principle applies when you write your resume. Your resume needs to be appealing enough, appealing to the eye, that someone want to read it. So the way to do that is same thing that I mentioned earlier. I won't go over everything here. And you always want to remember the 6-second rule. Formatting, to oblige the 6-second rule, formatting plays a huge part in it. I won't go into too much detail here since we're almost out of time now. So it needs to be consistent. Font, color, style, spacing, everything needs to be consistent. It needs to be written as a statement, not long paragraphs. And we've already talked about in previous section how to do that. Bullet as much as you can. Avoid non-traditional formatting. Having a different color or variation of fonts, size and in font style, that confuses the human eye. That confuses the system. ATS, application tracking system, where you're going to upload your resume. Focus on keywords. And the section where we had skills, that's the keyword. That's the key section for the keywords. One page or multiple pages, there's nothing wrong with having multiple pages, but try to keep it short. Rule of thumb is for every 10 years of experience, it's okay to add another page to it. But try to keep it as short as possible, as succinct and as concise as possible. If you have less than 10 years experience, you should be able to put it on one page. But if you have to go beyond one page, it's okay to do that. But I recommend using the entire second page or third page or whatever number of pages it is. So try to enhance the font size, so the last page gets filled completely, or try to reduce font or summarize few things, so the last page does not have just 3 lines hanging on the second page. It's not very professional. It doesn't look good. Either put it on one page completely, or use the entire second page, last page completely. Use a lot of white space. It's so powerful. What I mean by that is having on both sides of your page, leaving plenty of space, open space on the right and left side of your written text, having spaces between your sections, all the 5 sections we talked about, even spaces within your different experiences as well. This separates where previous experience and previous section ends and next one starts, and it's appealing to the eye and it's easier to read. So now I'm going to share some examples with you quickly. I see some questions coming in. We'll get to that in just a minute, but I want to share some examples that I have uploaded from the web. So by the way, these are not actual resumes. So I just uploaded them downloaded them from the web. So this is the one you have seen already. So it's a nicely written summary here. Experiences, you have seen the experiences here as well. A lot of you can see there's a lot of white space. Skill section, you've seen the example of this already. So this resume have one thing missing, which is education. So this person preferred not to have education, which is fine. Rather, they are targeting at one specific position, digital marketing manager. For them, that's a lot more exciting to them. They don't want to go into any other areas of business. The second example is, so this person has an address in it, and I honestly think you can put all this information, if you want to, in one line. This will save you some space and help you bring a little bit more white space in it out. So it has objective. This is something you don't want. So seeking a position in tax accountant. This does not tell you that how this person is going to solve a problem, the company's problem. So I would like to see the tax accountant, that I'm a tax accountant or certified in ACCA or whatever educational certification they have in this many number of years of experiences. And then they can say that I'm looking for a position in certain area. Then this person is leading with education. The rest of the resume is relatively okay. Computer skills, Dean's honor list. And this is, again, there's nothing right or wrong with having this section, but it's up to you. Make sure it adds a value. As long as it adds a value and it complements the summary that you have written, feel free to write it. And this is take that out. This is just old school. References available upon request. This is understood. Take that out. Then this resume, this is, I've hidden few names. I'm not sure if it was a real resume or it was just an example. This is actually a very well written resume. As a nice, although they do call it objective, but the summary is pretty good. Nicely written summary, and they're using a couple of, they're leading with the education, which is fine. Generally, earlier in your career, if you don't have a whole lot of education, a whole lot of experience, then writing education in the beginning of the resume is okay. Then nicely written, it makes sense, easy on the eye, landscaping manager. Although I would like to have a little bit, rather than saying work with the 4 interns, have a little bit more meat around it. But still, it's pretty good. Tells a nice story. Leadership experience. So national agri manager. So this person has this section. I've seen in some resumes they have volunteer experience or experience beyond their work. Your experience is experience. I encourage you to write all your experiences under experience section. Just because that you did not get paid for it, it does not mean it was not an experience. Community involvement, all that is a good touch. So this has nice disclaimer that this is just a sample. There's no right or wrong way to write a resume or the format a page. Choose a resume that represents your skills and experiences, and I cannot stress that enough. Every resume can have some great things about it, and every resume can have some things to improve upon. Make your resume, everything that we are discussing today is just general guidelines. Make your resume your own. See what fits for you. So this person, again, is looking for a very specific position, so they've highlighted their summary as such. So this is the way to write your skills. Since they are looking for construction positions, they have highlighted their construction skills only. So this is also another good, nicely written resume. Have a summary of their company they work for, and then they go on with the rest of the experiences. Education, one-liner, available for sure. So this is actually another good way to say if there's full-time driver, for example, drivers are insured in the US, in North America. So someone with a driver's license, truck driver license, is actually it's gold these days. So putting that kind of very critical skill, I encourage you to do that. And this is where you can write that you are available for full-time work or part-time work, or if you had gaps, perhaps you can write them this way. Again, it's up to you, whatever makes sense to you. But I like the fact that they have made it apparent here. Excellent work references, you don't have to write it. I wanted to go into little bit more detail, but we're already past time. So I'll just stop here, and I'll hand over to Tim. Tim, whatever you want to do, I wanted to allow a little bit more time for questions as well, but I want to be respectful of everyone's time. So Tim, back over to you.
Okay, thanks, Asif. That was a really informative, great presentation on resume. So I do have a question here from Bjorn. He was asking, he heard that someone said, if you go over 2 pages of your resume in Canada, it can create some kind of negative view from the potential employer. Is that true?
Yeah, I wouldn't say it's negative or positive. The general guideline is that you want to keep it short. If you can keep it within 2 pages, that's ideal, right? I mean, 1 page is even ideal. So my resume, I have about 15 years of HR experience, and I have experience before HR as well. My resume is 2 pages, but I'll never go over 2 pages. Even if I still have about 20 years of professional runway of my career left, but I'll never go over 2 pages. I'll eliminate prior experiences. I'll shorten it to some extent because I don't want to go over 2 pages. But if you want to go over 3rd page, it has to make sense. It has to be a logical decision, right? As far as employers are concerned, I cannot speak for everyone else, but my preference is to keep it short.
He was also asking if there's any human resources volunteer opportunities to understand the Canadian culture and the work environment and that kind of things.
Yeah, so this is a great question.
Yeah, do they have to be certified as a CPHR or something like that?
No, you don't have to be. I'm not CPHR. So my work does not involve having a certification. You know, I'm a more of an OD type of person. But if your work requires certification, it's helpful to have that. And I do encourage you to get into that. As far as learning about the culture is concerned, there's not really a right or wrong answer to that. I would say just go on the LinkedIn, start asking questions, your peers, your network, anybody you meet, they're going to give you something. And honestly, if you ask people about their opinion, people actually enjoy that. They enjoy sharing their experiences. They enjoy giving advice. That's what human beings do. That's how we are designed. So feel free to ask others around you.
Okay. Thanks again, Asif, and thanks everyone.
Okay,
Bye.
thanks. Okay, bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Good luck, everybody.